Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. Now, in this edition, we will mainly be talking about the future of Tottenham Hotspur head coach Antonio Conte. We will be discussing his comments on Saturday after the 3-3 draw at Southampton. We will also discuss possible new managers and what is next for Spurs with 10 games to go in this Premier League season. Now, we have got three very special guests with us this evening. We've got comedian, author and host of a new podcast, When Football Begun Again. We've got Cole Jones back with us. Cole, how are you?
I'm good, Chris. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this as being a cathartic experience, really, from the eternal misery that is Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Cole, as I've just said, you've brought out a brand new podcast, When Football Began Again. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so just behind me here is the 1992 lineup photo for the Premier League. So my podcast is all about the Premier League era, just remembering when football was still quite fun, actually. I think, and we've got Gordon Jury actually representing Spurs on this photo. So for anyone of a certain vintage, but yeah, the podcast each week chat to comedians, chat to super fans about all sorts of different clubs, not just Spurs, about the Premier League era. So yeah, we're 10 episodes in, and it's really good fun so far.
And of course, Cole, Tottenham's first ever Premier League game, 1992, a draw at Southampton.
Yeah. That's what symmetry.
Yeah. We've also got channel regular back with us, Craig Dearman. Craig, how are you?
I'm all right, Chris. Quite looking forward to this. As Cole said there, a bit cathartic, and hopefully the same for everybody else listening and watching tonight. I'm sure we're going to get into it. There's going to be differences of opinion, but hey, that's football. No matter what fence you sit at, I think we can all agree the club's in a tad of a mess at the moment. But, you know, we wouldn't have it any other way, would we? Probably, possibly.
We will definitely get into it all. There is so much to discuss on this evening's show. We've also got Italian journalist Simone back with us, of course, journalist with Football Station and Sport Italia TV. Simone, how are you?
I'm fine, mate. I'm fine. Delighted to be back on the show. So when you call me, I'm always fine.
Well, as I said, Antonio Conte's explosive press conference on Saturday. Now, let's hear from the man himself. I've got a clip of around 1.5 minutes long. Let's remind ourselves what he said on Saturday after the 3-3 draw at Southampton.
Yeah, if we are going to discuss about the penalty, it means that we don't want to see other situation. Because the problem is that for another time we show that we are not a team. We are 11 players that go into the pitch, and I see selfish players that don't want to help each other, don't put the heart. They use it here. Don't play for something important. They don't want to play under pressure. They don't want to play under stress. It's easy in this way. And Tottenham story is this: 20 years that there is the owner and never won something. But why? Only for the fault is only for the club or for every manager that stay here? And I have seen the manager that Tottenham had on the bench. You risk to disrupt the figure of the manager and to protect the other situation in every moment. Until now, I try to hide the situation, but now no. Because I repeat, I don't want to see what I have seen today, because this is unacceptable. Also for the respect for the fans. They follow us, pay the tickets, and to see the team another time. To have this type of performance, for me, I repeat, this is unacceptable. And we have to think a lot. We have to think a lot about this.
Craig, let's start with you on Antonio Conte's comments. Saturday evening, when you saw that, when you heard Antonio Conte ranting there, pretty much dissing the players, the board, everything at the club. He said that the fans were impatient only a week or so ago about us wanting trophies, etc. What did you make of those comments on Saturday?
Well, to be honest, as you know, I was watching your live stream Saturday, and I try and put the comments from any press conferences into the chat that you put on the screen. There was so much. My phone actually nearly ran out of battery, copying and pasting stuff across and trying to write it down. There was so much, and to be honest, I was so shocked at the first few that I'd seen from reputable sources. I had to actually go and double check to make sure that it was right, because you just don't see things like that in press conferences. And it was explosive. It was in a way refreshing, because I have to say I probably agree with 98% of what he said. That, you know, the truth hurts and all that. I mean, exactly what he said, more or less. I think we've either said on this channel or we agree with ourselves. A lot of hard truths in there. The only part I disagree with, what I don't like to see, is him bawling out players in front with the press. I'm not sure that can motivate a squad. Perhaps he should keep that behind closed doors. Some people say he's tried everything else and now he's just doing it in public. He's just had enough. I don't know. I think we knew what we was going to get with Conte. Simone told us about this when we employed him at the club, that this was how it was kind of going to end. You always get this with Conte. I think I'm saying this right, Simone. I think it's fair to say Conte say, "Io sono stanco." I am tired. You know, and I think that's what he is. He looks tired. I think he's fed up. He's had enough. And I saw pictures of him on his Ryanair flight back to Italy, whether that was today or yesterday. I'm not sure we're going to see him again in the dugout, but I was shocked, but in a good way shocked, because in a weird sort of way, it was nice to see somebody from the club kind of come out and say what we've all been saying. But I don't see how his position is tenable now. I think a lot of the players will be upset with those comments, rightly or wrongly. You know, I'm not sticking up for the players here. They're as culpable as anyone. But I think there's big problems at Tottenham. But it's not just the players; it's everything. It's the players, the manager, and the board as well. And we can get into recruitment and everything, but it certainly was an explosive press conference. And I must admit, I obviously couldn't watch it when I went back and watched the video. It was morbid curiosity, and I must admit it was fascinating to watch.
Yeah. Craig, when he said we're not a team, we have selfish players, who's he talking about?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? And I'm not quite sure what he meant by selfish. Now, I've played football, obviously not at that level, and my managers, we didn't do press conferences. We just had the Romford recorder. Occasionally, you'd get your name in there if you scored a goal. But obviously, it's a bit different for the Premiership guys. You know, this is going out worldwide, and when your manager comes out and says you're selfish, and you include players like Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, players that have won World Cups like Romero. I mean, I don't know how they're going to feel. It was shocking to say selfish. I wish he'd gone into a bit further detail what he meant by that. Selfish as in, you could read it a million different ways. I mean, I'd love to hear what people think he meant by that, because I actually genuinely don't know what he meant by that. The selfish part.
You can imagine, Craig, can't you? Being in that press room, the journalists must have just been looking at one another as if to say, "Oh my God, what is happening here?" They probably had so many questions that they wanted to ask, but of course, at the end, Antonio Conte literally just got up and left before he said something that he probably would have regretted. I'll come back to you in a minute, Craig, on how the players feel. I want to talk about that in depth. Carl, let's get your reaction to Antonio Conte's press conference.
Well, I think I agree with an awful lot of what Craig's just said in terms of how what he said is what we as fans have been saying. I think clearly he has to take a lot of responsibility himself. He's talked about culture. He's talked about Tottenham Hotspur for the last 20 years. You're the guy that we brought in to sort some of this out. Okay, you maybe can't do all of it, but you're the guy. So I think, him kind of absolving himself a little bit, which we've seen quite a few times. And, we can get down into individual things in terms of some of the tactics and some of the substitutions and not starting Kane at Sheffield United. We'd have been playing Blackburn Rovers yesterday. We wouldn't be talking about Southampton if we'd have managed to knock Sheffield United out. So these are things that you just go, it's a domino effect of some of the decisions that he has made. And he, for me, is as culpable as anyone else. But clearly, the book doesn't just stop with him. I think in terms of selfishness and talking about the players, there doesn't seem to be a massive team spirit at the moment. There doesn't seem to be a united front in that dressing room. Just a few years ago, you would see that those players looked like they were all the best of friends. I mean, even I don't think Kane and Son have necessarily looked as close actually since Kane had angled for his move kind of last summer or whenever, the summer before last. So I wonder if that's kind of what he's referring to. We all saw the documentary where players are coming in and throwing bottles around the dressing room and things like that. I wonder how much of that's happening right now, because every time I see him walk off the field at Sheffield United against Milan, on Saturday, nobody looks that angry. Nobody looks that disappointed, to be perfectly honest with you. They kind of give a cursory applause to the away end and off they skulk off. And they barely come close, have they, in quite a few of those games, because I think they are ashamed. And yeah, it's a big concern at the moment, because I wonder, I agree, I don't necessarily know if we'll see Antonio Conte back. And where on earth does that leave us? I don't know.
Were you surprised by what happened, though, Cole? Or did you see this coming from him?
The reaction itself, I guess, I can't say I saw an explosive reaction in that way. I think throwing the players under the bus so publicly, as I say, could be a last throw of the dice. My initial reaction actually was, I think he, whether I thought he fancies Easter off and start somewhere else new in the summer, bring this project forward a little bit. And that was really actually my initial reaction on Saturday. I'm surprised that we're here 48 hours later and he's still the manager of Spurs. So that actually was my initial reaction. The fact that he is still manager of Spurs, how much we can read into that, I don't know. We're into an international break, so I guess there's no rush to announce anything. If they are lining something up, who knows? It might happen in the next hour. So I guess I was surprised to see him throw players under the bus. And I think it's interesting that he's rode back on the comments about how he wasn't blaming the owners. He very specifically talks about Tottenham not winning anything important in the last 20 years under these owners. So I think maybe it was the heat of the moment that got the better of him, but I think he was very clearly, to me, laying a lot of that at the owner's door as well, and rightly so in that respect. As I say, it's what we are saying as fans, but it's kind of everyone but Antonio. And I know he's had a rough few months, a rough year, but the guy we've broken another one. The guy looks like he's ready for a rest. The guy looks like he needs to go, and but the trouble is, I cannot see what the plan is. I cannot see what the succession plan is.
You always see things when you're at the game a lot more than you do on TV. And I've not seen this reported anywhere, but I said this on the show after the Southampton game. What I noticed during the match is that the ball went out of play. A Southampton player was down injured. The ball went to the ball boy, and Antonio Conte called over to the ball boy, "Give me the ball." The ball boy didn't give the ball. Antonio Conte shouted at him. The ball boy then threw him the ball back. He then continued to shout at him. It was just so unlike Antonio Conte. Every single time I've seen Conte, whenever someone wants a picture with him, an autograph or whatever, and I've seen Antonio Conte many times when he's with his family, and he's literally stopped what he's doing. He'll go over and he'll be really friendly to the fans. And when I saw him do that with the ball boy, it was just really out of character. It just didn't make any sense. And then, of course, after the game, we saw him, say what he did. Simone, let's get your reaction, because, of course, you're in Milan. You've seen Antonio Conte many times.
To be honest.
Sorry?
I'm in Rome, to be honest.
Oh, you're in Rome. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us your thoughts on Antonio Conte's explosive press conference on Saturday.
I think that we are talking about a man that clearly hates to lose points, loves to find excuses, and mainly Chris, I think that we are talking about someone that clearly lost his brain, and he was searching for someone to attack, and he clearly found his way attacking the players, just like Jose he used to do when he lost games, crucial games against Everton, against Dinamo de Zagreb. So we are seeing the same story repeating itself once again. So for me, when this kind of things happens in football, in world of football, you know how it will end up, and you know why. Maybe the manager will lose his place, will lose his bench. So let's see what we can see in the next couple of days, because Spurs history recent. Spurs history is what it is, and we can expect everything from them.
Simone, is there any way back for Antonio Conte after all of these comments?
I don't think so, because if you think about Antonio Conte's relationships towards the Tottenham environment, he had always just one thing on his side. That was the players. The players would have been ready to get, to battle, to go to war alongside him. But if you betray your players, this is what can happen. So I don't know what to think. I don't know there is a way back. But to be honest, Chris, if you know my thoughts, and I kept on saying this by January, if you already know that you are gonna leave Spurs, what's the point of staying here? Of course, you are a professional, so just to earn your money, and stay till the very end of the season. But how can you motivate your players? How can you help them to trust on your ideas, to trust on your future, if you already know that for family reasons, or whatever they are, you're gonna leave Tottenham at the end of the season? Because of course Antonio is a human being, and if he is missing his family, for the God's sake, guys, he has got all the rights to be back in Italy, to be close to his family. There is no discussions about that. But if you already knew that you are gonna be leaving Spurs at the end of the season, so come on, how bloody hell, how can you say things like that? 20 years without winning a trophy, first of all, is a mistake. First of all, it's not true. It's been 15 years. Secondly, we are talking about, under Mauricio Pochettino, a group of players that tried it hard to win a Champions League. They were playing in 2019 a Champions League final. Antonio Conte will never play in a Champions League final. Trust me, this has to be very, very, very clear. Because what's the point of saying that your players don't have fire on their heart, fire on their eyes? We are talking about a football club that 3 years ago, just 3 years ago, I repeat, 3 years ago, were fighting to win a Champions League. And Antonio Conte, that is a top 5, top 10 manager in Europe, no doubt about that. We have to admit that his European track record is not as top as his European dimension, because of course he has won many trophies, he has won many titles with Inter de Milan, with Juventus, with Chelsea. Everyone knows it. But guys, to be honest, what about his European tracking records? 4 times he got out on group phases in the Champions League. Twice in the last 16, only once in the last 8. So we are talking about someone that, bloody hell, he doesn't know anything about playing a Champions League semi-final or more, a Champions League final. So, bloody hell, how could you say that? So when he want to speak about Spurs, he has to learn a little bit more, not about history, about recent history. So that's my thoughts, that's my feelings.
Simone, just a quick yes or no. Do you think that Antonio Conte wants the sack?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, Chris, because he doesn't have a long project contract. He will stay here until the end of the season, at least Daniel Levy, and we cannot, of course, expect some surprises in the next couple of days, but he has got just a contract till the very end of the season. He is not going to stay here at Tottenham for years. So I don't think it's an economical side, economical issue. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of days.
Craig, let's come to you. A report came out earlier from Sky Sports. They have stated that Antonio Conte does not expect to be sacked by the club. And Fabrizio Romano, a short while ago, has stated internal discussions are taking place at Tottenham on the Antonio Conte situation, with Daniel Levy to have final say, as Conte's plan to leave at the end of the season was already clear after the defeat against AC Milan in the Champions League. Conte's words were directed at the players and not the board and the owners. Craig, is there any way back for Antonio Conte, or would you expect Spurs to act in this international break?
Well, no, I don't think there is any way back for him. I think they, as I've said on him many times, I think they've known for months that he intended to see out his contract till June and then be on his way. I think they've known that. This may well and should, in my opinion, force their hand to do something. They don't have to do it straight away. Pochettino was sacked, I think it was the second week of the international break. So they don't have to do it straight away. Knee-jerk reactions. But if they are having a board meeting tonight, then who knows? Something might come out tonight or tomorrow. But the frustration for me is that the club haven't come out and said anything yet. Perhaps they will. I don't know. Apparently, if you believe, and I still think people sit there and make stuff up just to get it out there, that he had discussions with Daniel Levy and he told Daniel that everything he said was directed at the players and not at the board. Well, he's not going to turn around and say to his employer or his boss, yeah, it was aimed at you, was it? Because especially coming out in such a public way, criticising your boss like that, I don't know. Would that classify as gross misconduct, which means he wouldn't get a severance pay? I don't know. I don't know how these things work. But he's not going to turn around and say, "Oh no, don't worry, I wasn't directed at you." Of course, it was directed at the board. Of course, it was directed at his managers above him. 100% on that. He was blaming everybody. He did throw everybody under the bus. Probably the only one that got off was the tea lady or somebody like that. You know, everybody got it from him. And as I say, it was refreshing to hear, because a lot of what he said I agreed with, most of it, in fact. But I just don't think there can be a way back, because how is he going to walk into that dressing room and look those players in the eyes? How's he going to look Harry Kane in the eyes? How's Harry Kane going to look him in the eyes? If I was Harry Kane, wouldn't you be like, boss, what you said in that press conference, was you talking about me? You know?
Well, do you think that those discussions happened on the coach on the way home? And certainly Antonio Conte's phone would have been ringing from Daniel Levy, surely.
Well, Daniel Levy was there. I don't know if Daniel goes on the coach with him. I can't imagine he would lower himself to get on the coach. But if Conte was on the coach, players all have phones, obviously, and they all have social media, obviously, and they're seeing these things coming out in the press conference. Imagine being on that coach and being one of them players and seeing that, and you're going to turn to the player opposite you and go, "You seen what he said now? You seen what you said about me? You know, whether we agree with that, because again, and I stress, I agree with a lot of what Conte said. But can you? I would have loved to have been a fly on that wall on that coach, because you can just imagine the conversations that were going on. I'd have loved to have had video footage of that. Carl, that would have been priceless. But again, what would somebody like Harry Kane think? Would he think, oh, those 11 players? Hang on, he's saying to me that I don't give a damn. Somebody who's been at the club since I was 8 or whatever it was, you know, stayed, went through thick and thin, who he admitted was a world-class player, and the club would basically be lost without him. And he's thrown me under the bus. I'm club captain at the moment because Hugo's out. I mean, how is it? It boggles the mind. Perhaps he just got, I think he did, probably just got carried away. The steam was coming out of his ears. You know that old Tom and Jerry cartoon where the steam comes out of somebody's ears? It was like that. You could see it. And I would imagine his finger was quite sore because he was banging that table with everything he was got. You know, it was incredible to watch. But the players on the coach, look, some of them might turn around and say, do you know what? He's right. He ain't giving his all over there. And as for him, I mean, what the hell was he doing? Why is he playing? Why is he getting game time? There was an interesting picture of Dan Juma on Instagram today. I don't know if anybody saw it. He just had a massive smile on his face. Not quite sure why he would have such a big smile on his face. But
can I just say, Craig, straight after that game, weirdly, I was with my son Harry, and both of us bumped into Dan Juma after the match. The way that we went out, weirdly, he was meeting 3 family members, and I tell you what, he looked absolutely gutted. No game time. He looked really, really down in the dumps. He really did. Talking to his family members, they'd obviously flown over to see him, hopefully to see him play. I tell you what, he looked really disappointed. And
guys, but the Danjuma's situation is all up to Paratici. It's not about Conte, because Conte wanted a proper right winger. And Danjuma is not a right winger. Danjuma can play in that position, but for me, he's another one. He's another Richarlison. He's another Sonny. So for me, he's a left winger. He's not a right winger. So that was another big and massive mistake made by Fabio. That's my truth.
It's another club signing. We'll come on to that in a second. Craig, do you want to carry on what you were saying?
Where was I? What was we talking about? Danjuma. Yeah. So what must he be thinking? I bet he's thinking, I wish I could go up the M6 and sign for Everton, is what he's probably thinking, because bearing in mind, he was there, he was basically signed, and we nicked him. Now, imagine a player thinking, a club like Tottenham want me. God, I must be able to get some decent game time. And you've seen him for what? A total of about 20 minutes? It's just incredible. That's why I'm still never sure that these directors of football work. I get the idea behind it, but I think we've proved that we've performed best where the manager picks the players that he wants. All right, we haven't always got the players that he wants, and I think Poch's success was down to a lot of luck in some ways, because he chose the players he wanted. Redknapp did, I think. Don't think we had a director of football back then, or certainly not the structure we've got now. I mean, what's Paratici going to be thinking about these comments? Because he should be included in Conte's comments, surely. Because basically he was saying, you're not giving me the tools to do the job. But the thing is, he's supposed to be a world-class manager. I haven't seen him improve one player, personally. Not one. You know, we've gone backwards this season. You know, if he's not improving players, then you're not that good a coach. And you could turn around and say, oh, he's taken them as far as he possibly can. I'm sure there's a manager out there that could get more out of these players, and this might give people a bit of hope, and you can choose to call me an idiot if you want. I don't think that there's that many problems with this squad. I think we've got to, in the summer, get rid of a load of loan players that they don't want off the books. But I think with the addition of 4 perhaps 5 players in key positions when you're buying quality and with a manager who plays the football that the players actually want to play, I don't think we're that far off. And our position proves that, because we are in 4th in the Premier League. You get in 4 or 5 players with a manager that brings everybody back together and plays decent football. I don't think we're going to be that far away. But at the moment, we're in disarray.
It's whether you want to keep challenging for 4th, though, Craig, or move up the ladder and actually challenge for something important. Like Antonio Conte says, important. And it's funny, I'm just going to give you a great example here. And, I'm sorry to dig out someone like Clement Lenglet. The amount of times that I've asked guests on this show and, Spurs fans in stadiums, what do you think of Clement Lenglet? Everyone's answer is exactly the same. He's all right. He's all right. Do we want to settle for he's all right? We want to go for top players. We want top players in. And, we've all spoken many times on this channel about when was the last time you were wowed by a signing in transfer windows. Yes, we've spent money. The club have admitted that they've spent money and there have been mistakes. Another easy example, £100 million, Tongion Ndombele, Giovanni Lo Celso, they're both out on loan. They're not even playing for us at the moment. They're back in the summer. We don't know who the manager's going to be. Will they get another chance? Will Harry Winks come back in the summer? Will he get another chance? This is a huge problem again. In the summer, we've got all of these players coming back on loan. Are we going to be able to offload them? What's going to happen with them? Cole, let's come to you. Let's talk about club signings, because Antonio Conte, of course, in the summer said that Jed Spence, club signing, gone out on loan, hasn't hardly had any minutes in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt. Dan Juma, as Craig has just mentioned, club signing, didn't come on again, didn't get any minutes. What on earth is going on with him working with Fabio Paratici? Because, of course, they are very, very good friends. They've worked together before. They see each other every day. They work together every single day. You think the amount of discussions that they're having, how on earth is Antonio Conte being given club signings that he doesn't want?
I just don't know, and I don't get it. And I think in answer to your question, last time wowed by a signing, Rafa van der Vaart. Before that, Edgar Davids. Before that, maybe Klinsmann coming back the second time. When was the last time we had a player walk through the door where you just went, wow, we've signed a world-class player? Clement Lenglet, another 7 out of 10. I think I've got to sort of disagree with Craig in terms of the squad, because I think I know this is an argument that used to be thrown at us. Anyone who watched Tottenham knew we weren't the Harry Kane team. We were a team of 11. I think this season we have been the Harry Kane team. And I think you take Harry Kane out of that side, we're below Chelsea this season. I think we are mid-table and average at best this season under Conte's tactics if Harry Kane wasn't doing what he's doing for us. And then in terms of just the signings and what on earth is going on in terms of how can this be not working? How can Dan Juma be coming in and Jed Spence, who I particularly was really excited about Jed Spence. I really thought that we've got a quality player there who is a very, very promising right back, which was a problem position for us at that time when he came in as well. And these players haven't been given opportunities and have been farmed out on loan. There isn't any of the top clubs, and let's face it, we're Spurs fans. We know that increasingly year on year on year, without silverware, this label of being a top club, we consider ourselves to be a top club because of our history, because of our stadium, because we've got, Asia's best player and possibly the best number 9 in the world and Brazil's number 9. We've every right to consider ourselves a big club. Yet we do not back that up off the field with by backing our managers, by bringing the players in that we need to see. And this goes way back. We talked about the director of football model. Redknapp wouldn't come in with a director of football, and we played some great attacking football in that team. But there was that transfer window back in, I think it was 2010, winter 2010. We could have had Luis Suarez was linked. We could have had Gary Cahill when he was at the peak of his career. We ended up with Ryan Nelson and Louis Saha. It is never really stopped. And then there's that period before the Champions League final when we were in a title race, we were pushing for the title, and we did not invest for 18 months, 500 and however many days it was, and we never brought anyone in. And we are still seeing the same players in that squad who were beginning to go stale then, and that's 3 or 4 years ago. Now, I was someone who maybe I made excuses, I don't know, for the ambition of the board and the ambition of the club, because the one thing that will be said, we haven't got an oil magnet, we haven't got someone who's bankrolling this football club, and unfortunately, it is a fact of the modern game that you do need to be run financially well. And as we all know, we run very financially well. But we are fans and we want to see what happens. We are the people that fund that football club. And we are now out of the pandemic. We've got full stadiums. We've got concerts. We've got all the tourism stuff, all the stuff that's running money for them. And we are still not backing the manager. And the football club will say, well, they've spent this much. We've spent a lot of money on players. We have spent a lot of money on players. But the circus that's gone on behind it appears to be that, again, the balance and the players that we brought in, it isn't working. The manager doesn't want to play the players we brought in. We're sending players out on loan. Meantime, we've got now probably, arguably, the greatest player who's ever played for our football club running into the final year of his contract. What are our chances of keeping him, that asset? Sonny's 30 years old. His market value is going down all the time. So where is the revitalization of this squad? How, if they won't back this team with these players, what is going to happen in 2, 3, 5 years from now when actually Kane's gone anyway or retired, or Son's gone and retired? I can't see what's happening. I can't see the philosophy at all anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree, Carl. I think when Heung-min Son and Harry Kane eventually leave or retire, I think that we are going to have big issues. In my opinion, I think that we've got problems at player level. I think we've got problems at the manager level, and I think we've got problems at board level. There are problems throughout the whole of the club. Carl, in your opinion, what do the board need to do differently? I know a lot of people are going to probably shout at me now, but what do you think? What is your opinion? What the board needs to do differently once Antonio Conte leaves and a new manager comes in? Because we have gone round in circles, in my opinion, since Mauricio Pochettino left. He come out and said publicly a number of times, you know, you've got a mansion, you need the furniture to put in. We all agree with that. I don't think there's any Spurs fan that does not agree with that, you know, we've got this lovely, fantastic stadium that, of course, we've all been to. We've got wonderful training facilities. We've had some fantastic players, some fantastic managers. I am sitting here, I cannot believe that we've gone from Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, and not won a trophy, not going to get over that line. In your opinion, what do they need to do differently?
Well, I think they need to communicate, and I said this a few months ago on your show, Chris, as well. And there was that statement from the club, but it was again very past the book. It was very almost, you know, subtly blaming the fans for expecting too much, in my opinion, rather than again holding their hands up. They just kind of said, we've invested in the club. They haven't invested in it well. What you would have said maybe 12 months ago when Paratici came in was, you know, in fairness, get Daniel Levy away from these transfers, get him away from selecting those players because it's not worked, bring in someone who knows what they're doing. Now, on the face of things, that looked like the Paratici and Conte partnership. We brought in Bentancur and Kulusevski, who are two very, very good signings and very, very important players for us. Having said that, it could only happen to Spurs. Paratici and the ban and all of the stuff that's gone on that's kind of followed him here. Again, could it happen to another football club? So there's this thing again for me in terms of incompetence is a strong word, but you know, we almost seem to try every single different thing, and we've actually brought someone in to manage the transfers, and you're bringing Bentancur and Kulusevski and go, okay, we've cracked it now. But clearly that's not working because we're bringing in Danjuma and Jed Spence and calling them club signings and so on. So we need to go back to, they need to go back to basics. I think the obvious thing is they need, if they are not interested in selling the football club, and there's various rumours that they might be, but I don't know who's going to come in and offer what they're going to accept for it. If they're not interested in selling the football club, we've got to strip back and get back to some basics and go back to project manager. But we've we've now blown 2-3 years bouncing around from quick fix microwave managers who are going to come in and get us over this, and we keep breaking them. We literally can't lift a League Cup, let alone anything else. So I think we have just I'm not even sure what the answer is anymore, Chris. I think because the one thing I would say is that the board, in defending themselves, will go, well, we've tried everything. We've tried it this way. We've tried it that way. We've tried it the other way. The one thing they haven't done is brought in a manager and backed one of the greatest sets of players we've had, certainly in the modern era of Tottenham. And we can all keep pointing back to Pochettino and saying he wasn't backed. It is a fact. And that was the moment. And it seemed like everyone could see it except them. And it doesn't make business sense, let alone footballing sense. If we take it away and say they're not interested, which I don't think is true. I think they do want to win trophies. I don't think they want to win trophies as much as they want to turn a profit. But I do think they want to win trophies. If only to get us lot off their backs, if only to shut us up, they want to win trophies. And they cannot find a way to do it. It feels like they've tried every possible which way. And you know, we as a fan base, we've got to accept, I think, where we are, and accept that yet again we're coming to the end of yet another chapter, and that we are going to have to start again somewhere. And that gets more painful with each passing go, because how many times now have we been here? I think the final straw for me will be, and I know we'll probably come on to who may replace him. I think that will be the moment where they get that wrong, and I think will be. I don't know what more can happen for the fan base to remain as placid as we are.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of very angry people out there at the moment. Now, Matt Law, journalist with the Daily Telegraph, tweeted earlier, and what about this for a stat? Over the past 20 years, Daniel Levy has hired 10 permanent coaches who, between them, have won 61 trophies before and after managing Tottenham. Between them, in that time, they have only won one trophy at Tottenham. Now, in the last 10 minutes, the Daily Telegraph have stated that Tottenham are expected to part ways with Antonio Conte later this week. An exclusive article from Matt Law. Simone, let's get your thoughts on what you think the board should do next.
You already know my answer, Chris, because we need to be back. Guys, to be honest, let's be back 10 days before the Champions League final. So I'm back on May 2019. I knew a genius that was the manager at the time of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, best manager of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club in the last 20-25 years. That was called Mauricio Pochettino. And Poch, in his famous interview with Gary Lineker, he clearly stated that he was scared about what would have been next after the Champions League final, because what Daniel Levy had been asking to do before the Champions League final was reduce the gap with top four, finishing above Arsenal, finishing into the top four, let's complete the new stadium. After the Champions League final, he was already asking for a rebuild. And the best manager of Tottenham history in the last 25, 30 years already saw it everything, absolutely everything. And here we are in the March 2023, and we are talking about what he already saw. So it's not about putting every world-class manager, just like Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, in the same basket, because Poch already saw absolutely everything. So we are talking about a club that needs to build itself from foundations once again. So I'm expecting Spurs, if they have got some brains, Levy and the boardroom staff, if they wanna build again something special, they need to appoint once again Mauricio Pochettino, but not just for the fans, because I was listening very carefully the interview that today Chris made with Sky Sports I'm sure that in every aspect, Mauricio is still the best manager that Spurs can appoint in the next couple of weeks.
We'll come on to Pochettino in a second, Simone. We've got a question here from Welsh Guy 2014. I'm more angry at Joe Lewis. The man is rich as Roman and yet hasn't put a penny of his own money into the club. Need youth and experience now. Vincent Kompany for me. There are so many managers' names going around at the moment. Vincent Kompany for you or not?
But Luis Enrique, Vincent Kompany, Roberto De Zerbi, why all these names? I only aim the best for them. Potentially, we are talking about some very, very clever managers. But, you know, Tottenham story started to fall down when they decided to get rid of their best manager in the last 25 years. And I'm clearly talking about Mauricio Pochettino. So if Poch wanna be back, and he always stated that one day, written in the stars, he wanna be back to finish what he unfinished, why not Pochettino? Because we are talking about Kompany, Luis Enrique, De Zerbi. I'm not sure they can deliver what Poch deliver on that levels. So I will always go for a reunion, for a romantic reunion with Mauricio Pochettino.
I think I know where this is going. Whatever name we're going to bring up, Simone is just going to say Pochettino, and that's it.
Yeah.
Craig, let's come to you on Mauricio Pochettino, because I was on Sky Sports earlier, and I said that I would like to see Mauricio Pochettino back. The clips went out on Twitter and other social media, and I put a number of pictures about Pochettino up online. I would say half, 60% perhaps, were like, yep, completely agree, bring Mauricio Pochettino back. There were a lot of people who don't want him back and said, don't ever go back. Why on earth would you want him back? He didn't win anything at Tottenham. What are your views on possibly bringing Pochettino back? Would it be good for Spurs? And would he be better than everybody else?
I think you know my opinions on Poch, and anybody that follows me on Twitter, all of my 200 odd followers, not that you're probably interested in what I think, but in my opinion, he's the only man on the planet that can reunite this fractured club, I think was the way I put it. I get why people don't want him back. Yes, he didn't win anything. It just, in my opinion, it just feels right at the moment. I just think anybody else would be a gamble. And the board can't afford to get this wrong. They really can't. I know we've said that a million times in the past, but
we've said that about Conte.
We did. But bringing Poch back, and I've said this before, I think he's the only man that will get Kane to stay. You're talking Kompany, De Zerbi, not enough experience in my opinion. I've seen Luis Enrique name mentioned. His record isn't all right. He's won with Barcelona, but you've got to look at the Barcelona team he had and the Spanish team he inherited. For me, it wouldn't be the right fit, plays better football, but I just think Poch gets this club. I think he gets it. And as I say, I think he would be the only man that can bring everybody back together, because things were just so much better under him. I'll tell you what, Chris, when he was sacked, and I you know, this is probably saying a bit strong, and obviously football isn't life and death, but it did feel like somebody had died. It did. Yeah. And it was like one of those moments for me where I will always remember where I was when Pochettino was sacked. I know that sounds daft, but that's how I fondly felt of the guy. When we appointed Mourinho, it was quite clear as soon as he was sacked, the reports are coming out that Mourinho was favourites for the bookies. The bookies rarely get these things wrong. And I thought, my first thought was, great. You know, I know what the sort of football is we're going to be playing now for his tenure. And but then there was a side of me thought, well, give Mourinho a chance. He is a serial winner, blah, blah, blah. But the one thing that concerned me was the style of the football. That first game against West Ham, I thought he's had a week. He's not going to have enough time to instill what he wants out of the players. And we're going to play pretty much the Poch way. And we did. And we won the game 3-2. All right, we conceded 2 late goals. But we tore them apart, really. And then just stupidly, in the way that things were going that year, we conceded 2. Then gradually, Mourinho, you could see us sitting deeper and deeper and deeper. And then we sack him. We hire in Nuno. I was devastated when we appointed Nuno because I just didn't think he was the right fit. You could see the way that was going to go. That was even more boring than Mourinho's football. Then we got Conte in. Admittedly, when I first heard his name, I thought elite manager, but again, boring football. But I thought this was the guy that was going to get us over the line. And as many have said before, you don't mind. You could put up with the boring football if we were winning. But for me, as it was on Match of the Day, they did a great analysis. We're 3-1 up against bottom of the league, and we're sitting in a 5-4-1 formation. Now, the manager can affect that. Why is Conte not saying to Kane, we need you here. Get up there and occupy the centre-backs. Get Son up the pitch. Move everybody up. I don't get it. We should have been going on to win that game 4-5-1 in the end. And it's the negative tactics. I just don't think you see any elite teams play like that anymore. It might work in Italy. I don't know. I think he's more suited to Italian football. Yes, he won with Chelsea, but I just don't think it suits the players at the club. Everything seems wrong. And Poch, I think, would be the man to with the best chance of not only keeping Harry Kane, which I think is paramount. Yeah. And look, Levy won't sell him if Levy don't want to sell him, regardless of what Harry Kane says or anybody says. I don't believe any of these articles that have come out saying Harry Kane's decided he wants to go. Who's he said that to? Has he rung up a reporter on his way to England duty and said, oh, by the way, I want out? It don't happen. So I don't believe that. But I think if you told Harry Kane...
what they say? If Harry Kane's going in his, I know we're going to talk about Harry Kane, but if he's going in his last year of contract in the summer and Spurs get a decent offer in for him, I think we will end up selling because there is no way that the club are going to want him leaving on a free transfer in the summer of 2024. Do you agree?
I can see the logic, but I've also lived with the argument that if we do get in Champions League and the money that generates, if they're going to get 70, 80 million for him, you're going to earn that from being either in the top 4 or getting in the Champions League anyway. So you're not losing out financially keeping Kane for another year. And whether that be against his will or not, I don't know. Harry Kane's always said he would stay if he sees us progressing. Well, we're not at the moment, obviously, but even Harry can see what's been going on. I don't agree that we need to sell him just for the money. I don't think Levy actually would sell him for the money. I think he'd think that, like I say, the financial it kind of balances it all out. So, I mean, whether Harry Kane wants to leave is another conversation completely. But for me, coming back to your Poch question, I think if Poch comes in, then Harry stays and Harry signs a new deal. I genuinely believe that because Poch will sign, if they want him back, of course, Poch will sign, I reckon, a 3 or 4 year deal. He's not going to sign a 1.5 year, 2 year deal. Yeah. He wants to be at this club. He said he would sign a 20-year deal when he was here last time. He loves this club. That's the passion I want for my manager. That's why I want Poch back, because we've had these. We knew about Mourinho. We knew he wouldn't be there that long. He got the boot. Conte now, 1.5 years. He's done, and we haven't gone forward. Tell me, am I wrong? Have we advanced any since Poch left? We haven't, have we?
We've gone round in circles. And I tell you what, the thing that most upset me is going out of the 2 cup competitions in the manner and the fashion that we did in the last couple of weeks. Now, when I put out on social media about Pochettino and I got slaughtered by half of the replies, I then went back to those people and said, well, who was the manager when you were most entertained and excited in your lifetime? And you know what? Most of those replies were Pochettino, but I don't want him back. Pochettino, but I don't want him back. Carl, what are the... Carl,
it's incredible. It's incredible.
I'll come to you in a minute, Simone. Carl, for you, pros and cons of bringing Mauricio Pochettino back?
Pros, He is our greatest manager of the modern era, the last 30, 40 years. I think he would play fantastic football. I think he's just about the only name that we can bring in at the moment, because I said this when we brought in Conte, that Conte looked like the last throw of the dice again, another last throw of the dice. But actually, again, you kind of go, well, Pochettino's the left turn that we may take that actually would appease at least a large majority of the fan base, if not everyone. I think I agree that I think that's probably our only chance of keeping Harry Kane. I don't think Harry Kane will stay for anyone else. There's a romantic thing there as well that says, well, if Pochettino came back and it was Harry Kane's final season at the club, and that was the season that we actually won something, there would be some poetic justice in all of that. I think they're the pros. The cons, I think Mauricio Pochettino will be back at our football club one day. I think you probably can't come back 3 times. And I wonder if coming back at this time is the right time, both for him and for us. Because if he comes in and it all ends in tears quite quickly, which it very well could do, if he doesn't get backed, if he doesn't get to recycle. I mean, how many of these players, were actually in that dressing room when he left? So my worry is that Pochettino comes back, doesn't have the bounce that we need, that actually I think it's majority want Pochettino back, but it's clearly not everyone, Chris, as you've said on Twitter, and as I think probably the comments are probably saying right now, not everybody wants him back, which therefore means that if 6-9 months down the line we are going backwards and Kane goes and we're not being reinvested in, then all of a sudden, not only are we just burning through managers, and let's face it, people who we're not going to remember that fondly, Mourinho, Conte, Nuno, we are going to burn through this manager that we all hold in our hearts as someone who gave us fantastic entertainment, who took us to a Champions League final. And I agree with everything that Simone said. What Pochettino did, I was one of the louder voices to say that, yeah, of course we want to win a cup, but he turned us into title win. Freudian slip. He turned us into title challengers. He turned us into regular top 4 team that we were not and aspired to be for so long. We finished above our wonderful neighbours year in, year out under Pochettino. So for me, Pochettino, what he achieved at this football club was outstanding. He oversaw that transition from the old stadium to the new stadium. Okay, the last 8 months, I think I saw somebody that said, the last 18 months of Poch wasn't great. It was actually about the last 8-9 months. It was that year that he actually went, and I think he was getting tired. You look at some of the other names. I mean, there was the Eintracht Frankfurt manager just before we came on air tonight. His odds had gone from 50 to 20s to 10s to odds on. We lived all this with Nuno. Nuno was the 10th choice. I mean, we went through one manager after another. It comes back to what I was saying about the incompetence of when we should have appointed Conte and didn't, put Nuno in, and then eventually got Conte, and we all thought it was fixed. So Pochettino's the simpler option, because I think he ticks a lot of the boxes for the club quite quickly. Whereas you look at Postecoglou at Celtic, you look at, I don't know why a De Zerbi or a Thomas Frank would want to leave the project that they've got. I think you'd only have to look at what Graham Potter's done at Brighton to go, that could be, not necessarily the best move for your career right now, to go to a bit of a basket case of a club. There's younger managers, Vincent Kompany, Michael Carrick's name been kind of passed around. Poor old Ryan Mason. If it ends up back in Ryan Mason's hands, even for 3 months, I think, the poor guy, has he not been through enough? So, I just, Pochettino for me would tick a lot of boxes. However, my gut instinct tells me I don't think it's the right time for him or for us.
Cole, let me ask you quickly, if Antonio Conte goes this week or next week, and there is 10 remaining Premier League games left, is it the right thing to do to bring Ryan Mason in again? Exactly what happened a couple of years ago when Jose Mourinho was sacked?
No, I don't think it is, but I don't know what the other options are. And let's face it. We are currently sat 4th in the Premier League. We are in a fight for the Champions League positions. And while top 4 is not a trophy, it is imperative for us to, you know, we've seen how much we invest when we are in the Champions League. Imagine missing out on that money for a couple of seasons again. So, you know, to keep the players that we've got, to attract better players and better managers, we need to be in the Champions League. So the idea of putting that into Ryan Mason's hands as a rookie manager, to me, would be a risk that is, and that's where Pochettino makes sense. That is where Pochettino makes sense, because he could come in and take us over that line. But I feel that it still could only happen for 18 months. And as I say, I'm trying to think of what is the best thing for Tottenham Hotspur 2, 3, 5 years in the future. We need someone to get hold of this football club, and giving it to Ryan Mason, a rookie manager, and still a very young man. Let's not forget he retired early. Still a very young man himself as well. I don't know. That to me would seem a massive gamble and not one that would pay off.
Roy Price writes here, we were the 4th best team last year. We're currently in 4th again. We must be the first team in history to be in that position and be in turmoil. Pochettino for me. I think, Carl, are you, if you had the choice, Pochettino for you to come back? Or another manager?
I think I'd... my heart says I'd love to see Pochettino back. My head says it's the wrong time for him to come back, and I don't know who the next manager is. And I think it would be a huge risk to get a Company or a Michael Carrick in. You know, again, Scott Parker's being linked. Scott Parker's just had a nightmare time in Belgium after walking out on Bournemouth. I think that would be a poor appointment. So, you know, who can come in and deal with these players and work with this chairman and Paratici and get the best out of this group of players. Maybe it is Pochettino, but in my head, I think we need to wait. I think Pochettino's a manager or two down the line for us.
But why should Paratici be even involved though? Because surely he might not even be able to operate soon.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
you know.
I was going to say a couple of weeks ago, I said exactly the same, Cole, as you. You know, Pochettino to return one day, but perhaps not now. But today, I just feel like it is the right thing to do.
Yeah, and you might well be right there, Chris. I think that's the thing. We might be running out of options here. I would prefer to see Pochettino back than going and paying another release fee for another manager. You know. With the greatest respect, and it's not coming from a great deal of knowledge. I don't want Eintracht Frankfurt's manager because he won a Europa League last season. That's not the answer. I don't want Ange Postecoglou because he's doing well in Scotland. I want someone to come in and take control of Tottenham and be our manager for the next 3, 4, 5 years and take us to success. That's not Ryan Mason. It might be Pochettino, but I think that comes further down the line.
Yes.
Maybe we have to take a risk on a good young manager like a Company or a Carrick.
Guys, sorry, but if not Poch, which one is your right one? Because of course, I think that nowadays it's pretty obvious to everyone that your fall down came when Poch got sacked to Jose. So for me, the answer is pretty clear. I don't know if Luis Enrique, De Zerbi, Glasnier, just like you said, the Eintracht Frankfurt manager, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that they can do much better than Antonio. Antonio is a world-class manager, but he has got his troubles. Okay, so if you want to save Spurs, if you want your fans to feel what it's like to be and to play the Tottenham way, for me, it's all about Pochettino. For me, my humble opinion, guys.
I think we certainly get it.
I think the question you have to ask yourself is, just forget for 1 second that Pochettino used to be our manager. Just try and put that out of your head. Imagine you as a fan of another club looking for a manager.
Yeah.
And somebody says to you, "Oh, well, Pochettino, what do you think about him?" Saying I don't know, West Ham sacked David Moyes. Saying you're a West Ham fan, they say, "Well, Pochettino can come in." But you're not going to say no, you know.
No, guys. I would take Pochettino even if I was the chairman of PSG, because they made an incredible mistakes by sacking him. And I'm not talking about Spurs. I'm talking about PSG. we are talking about someone that is top 5, top 6 in the world for me, because he's complete. He's not just playing well, playing entertaining football, because of course, I know after both Jose and Antonio, you, Spurs fans, are aiming for someone that restore the Tottenham way, playing well, just like Arsenal, and I totally agree with you guys. But of course, trust me, if you wanna make top 4 or if you wanna feed your target, for example, making top 4 nowadays, it means that you, in the modern Premier League, you have to make 75 points. In every season, guys, 75 points, you make them 60 of their 75 playing entertaining football, playing fantastic football. But at the end of the day, in April and in May, you reach your target with the dirty side of the game, winning, for example, 1-0 away, 2-1 away. So you need a little bit both. And Poch, I know for certainty that in the quarterfinal of 2019 against Man City, he wasn't the manager of the best team into the pitch, but he did it at the dirty side of the game. In Amsterdam, Ajax used to play the best football that time in Europe, but Fernando Llorente, second balls, Lucas Moura, Dele Alli, Sonny, all jumping on the second balls, dirty side of the game. He did it, so he's complete. Guys, 3 years ago, Poch was alongside Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp in Milan, trying to win the manager of the season in European football. So Poch is an incredible manager. I'd love to see Poch back at Spurs, not because, of course, the romantic story, the romantic scenes, the romantic scenario, but because I strongly think as the free agents, Poch is the best manager you can find. Trust me.
Simone, Danny Rose said that Spurs will not go back for Pochettino because it would be like the club admitting that they got it wrong by sacking him in 2019. Now, I've got to ask this question for balance. If you were Mauricio Pochettino or you were another manager where Spurs are approaching you to possibly have this job, what makes it different for them? What will they be demanding? What will they be asking? Because I've got to admit, if I was someone walking into an interview with the Tottenham Hotspur board, I would say, well, it didn't work out for Pochettino. You sacked him. It didn't work out for Jose Mourinho. You sacked him. You took 72 days to appoint Nuno Espirito Santo. You end up sacking him. And then Antonio Conte has had this big rant in a press conference, and now he's left. What is going to be? How is it going to be different?
You are completely right. You're completely right, Chris. But you have to admit that we can be here spending hours saying Levy out, Inic out. But the reality of the facts is that Daniel Levy and the Burn Room actually backed Antonio Conte. The biggest problem for him, for Antonio, is that the other football clubs spent this season a lot more money than he expected. This is the way. This is why he wants to run out. This is why he wants to be back in Italy. Because United, for example, Man U spent 100 million pounds for Anthony, 75 million for Lisandro Martinez, 55 million, for example, for Casemiro. And he wasn't expecting that. This is the biggest difference. So I'm expecting Daniel Levy to be backing the next Spurs manager. And I strongly hope that when he decided to sack Poch to appoint Jose and to Amazon Prime, he said, only time will tell if it's the right decision. Now he received the answer. It was the worst decision that he could only make in his entire Tottenham history as a Tottenham chairman.
Craig, I want to ask you the same question. And what is the definition of backing the next manager?
Well, firstly, if Potts does come back, I'd love Daniel Levy to come out and say publicly, I got it wrong. We should have kept this man in place from the start. definition of backing, just give him the players that he wants. It's not hard. You know, if Poch draws up a list of players that he wants, just go and get them. It's, you know, put aside, I know how hard it is, people say, to get transfers done, but other clubs seem to do it. You know, Man City seems to do it. Chelsea seems to do it. Arsenal seem to do it. Liverpool, well, they've had their issues, but, you know, they just act and they go and get the players that the manager wants. I don't see how it can be that difficult. There's always a way. There is, unless it's something like a Bastoni where the player did not want to leave Inter. You know, you've got to just pay the money. Unfortunately, pay the money for Daniel anyway. Pay the money. You know, and I'm still convinced we bring in a Hugo replacement, decent Hugo replacement. Whoever, what your opinions on goalkeepers are, I still think Pickford's not a bad shout for a keeper, to be honest, with Premier League experience. I think he's playing in a very, very poor Everton side. I think he'd do well at Spurs, but I know there's a lot of people out there that don't think Pickford's good enough. But go out and get a decent keeper. And I've said on here before, you buy Bastoni, you buy Guardiola, you go and have a back three. If you're playing a back three of Romero and them two, that is a solid back three with Porro. And then I still think we've got issues at left wing back. I've never really been convinced of Perisic, but Udogie's coming in, or Udogie, the next year. So look, if Poch comes back, whoever the manager is, they're going to have a list of players. Back in the manager, he's buying the manager the players that he's asked for, not continually club signings like a Dan Jube. I get Jed Spence, I really do. I get it for the future. I get that. He's got sell-on value. And to be honest, I was excited. I agree with Carl. I was really excited about Jed Spence. Out of all the signings in the summer, believe it or not, he was one of the most, because I watched him play, I thought, this kid's going to be good. This kid is going to be good. So baffling to me that Conte didn't even seem to give him a go. But yeah, in answer to your question, just go out and get him the players that they asked for. If Ryan Mason's in charge, then that says to me they're not going to appoint Poch, because Poch is a free agent.
Ryan Mason is no sense. It's just something like be back of 2 years with no plans. So as a caretaker manager for the rest of the season, but what's the point of doing that? You know, you are not going to trust in Mauricio to be back. So you're waiting for a new manager, but maybe just like Chris said, you are going to be waiting for another 70 months, trying to appoint someone to play attacking football. And then at the end of the day, you appoint Nuno Espirito Santo. So come on.
I think
no sense at all.
I think for style of football, it's got to definitely be someone like Mauricio Pochettino. I know a lot of people are saying don't go back, but when you're talking about style of football, we haven't been entertained since Pochettino left, you know, in that way. Can I ask all three of you very, very quickly, just give me a name. The question that I put out on social media earlier, your time supporting Tottenham in your life, who's most entertained you? Craig?
I would have to say Poch, and I'm probably older than most of you. I did like Venables, I have to say, back in the day, but a lot of people won't remember that. So, but certainly recent history. Mauricio Pochettino and Harry Redknapp.
Yeah. Carl?
Yeah, Pochettino, we played with grit, we played with attacking flair, we pressed, and he was, you know, nearly took us to heights we've never seen before. But I remain to say that if he comes back, doesn't get backed, we burn through that man, and we never see him back at the club again. So, but you've got Pochettino 100%.
Simone, I don't even need to ask you, do I?
Yeah, in terms of entertaining, I would say Harry Redknapp, Rafa van der Vaart, Luka Modric, Sharon Lennon on the right, Gareth Bale on the left. But in terms of being a complete manager that know how to win, even when you are not the best team in the pitch, I would say definitely Mauricio Pochettino is magic, you know.
I missed off Christian Gross, Chris. Sorry, that's who I meant to say.
Good grief. They were some days.
It's not that bad yet.
Well, we've got a graphic here from TalkSport comparing the managerial stats with Antonio Conte and Mauricio Pochettino. Total games, Conte 75, Pochettino 293. We've got a win percentage, very, very similar. Conte 54.67% to Pochettino's 54.61%. Average goals scored, Pochettino's Tottenham scored more goals average than Conte's side. Average goals conceded, very similar. And £30 million plus signings, including add-ons, 3 apiece. As Carl rightly said earlier today, we have been linked, reports in Germany, to Frankfurt manager Oliver Glasner. Of course, he's 48 years old, Austrian. He's managed Lask, Wolfsburg, and currently the manager of Frankfurt. And of course, he won the Europa League in 2022. Frankfurt are currently 6th in the Bundesliga. Now, there is 10 games to go in the Premier League. It will be interesting. It will be an interesting couple of days whether Antonio Conte does keep his job or not. There have been many reports stating that Ryan Mason could take charge of Spurs if that was to happen. Conte was to leave. We have got a very busy April coming up. We play Everton away, Brighton at home, Bournemouth at home, Newcastle away, Manchester United at home, and Liverpool away. A lot of those games, the teams are around us, either above us or below us. Simone, let's come to you first of all on this. 10 games to go in the Premier League. How confident are you, whoever is in charge, that Spurs will get a top 4 spot?
0%. Not just because of Newcastle, because of Liverpool. Liverpool are fighting back. But why? Because Liverpool struggled and coped with their troubles alongside Jurgen Klopp. And this shows a lot. Arsenal, they were facing very, very bad times with Arteta. They coped with him, and they nowadays are trying to win the Premier League. So that is just what Daniel Levy should have done 3 years ago alongside Mauricio Pochettino. Today we are talking about Jose Mourinho, Nuno Espirito Santo, Antonio Conte, but that is just what they should have done at that time. So stick together, stay behind Poch. And nowadays we are talking about maybe Poch to be back is not the right answer. Poch was the best manager in the last 25 years of Tottenham history. No money, Champions League final. So bloody hell, guys, what are we are discussing about? Come on. Even too, we are talking about someone that is one of the best persons in terms of human being in modern football. And the bloody hell, he loves Spurs. He's a Spurs fan. So I push back 100%.
Hold on, Simone. What has Pochettino got to do with our remaining games in the Premier League?
Vote. He's the only one that can make it. Vote.
You've got to listen to the question.
I love him. You know, Chris. I love him.
No, seriously, Simone. When you look at some of these fixtures, Brighton at home, Newcastle away, Manchester United at home, Liverpool away. These are all teams that we are playing. All the teams are around us. This is going to be a key run-in, isn't it?
Yeah. I expect many points in the first part of April. So against Brighton, against Everton away, against Bournemouth at home on the Easter weekend. And then, of course, Liverpool and Man U will decide everything. I think that 6 points will decide everything about Spurs season.
Craig, what are you making of the last 10 games? How many points realistically do you think Spurs can pick up out of 30? There's some hard games in there.
There is. I'd say we'd be doing well if we picked up 20 at the moment. At the moment, the way we've been playing, I'd say we'd be doing very well. At the moment, I would say we'll finish 5th. I know I said a few weeks ago we could finish 4th. That was before the latest debacle. Newcastle winning the other day didn't exactly help us. I agree. I think Liverpool could still make that top 4 position. Bizarrely, I mean, it shows you what fine margins football is. I know it's if buts and maybes, but if we'd gone out and actually taken that FA Cup game seriously and we was in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, if we'd managed to win Saturday, I'm not that bothered about the Champions League. I mean, I'm bothered with the way we went out, but I don't think we'd have got much further in it anyway. But the domestic cup, the FA Cup, that was something we could realistically win. And we just went out with a whimper. And dropping points like we did Saturday, I mean, I know the league's a funny old league this year and teams have been beating teams that they should never beat under normal seasons. I mean, Bournemouth beat Liverpool, didn't they? I mean, who would have seen that coming if you was a betting person? Very strange season, and it just seems that when we lose, teams around us that have the opportunity to catch us up just don't tend to do it a lot of the time, which is usually something Spurs do. I mean, just to think, if we'd managed to hold on, we'd have been in third until April. I mean, That's bizarre, and we're all moaning about how crap we are. We would have been in third in the Premier League. It's just unbelievable. But yeah, I think we'd be doing well to get 20 points out of that. There's some tough games in there. The key period is the Newcastle, Liverpool, and Manchester United. I think that will be the crunch because games after that are on paper at least a bit easier. And that's why it's important to get the right person in now, in my opinion, because going back to Conte, has he lost the dressing room? Are these players going to be playing for him in what is a key 10 fixtures coming up now? And that's what Daniel Levy's going to have to think. If Conte's lost the dressing room and he's lost the players and they ain't going to play for him, then they've got to get rid of him, but get somebody in who the players are going to play for. That is key.
Cole, do you think he has lost the dressing room now, Antonio Conte? I know I asked that question earlier about is there any way back for him, but do you think that the players have lost respect for him, particularly after Saturday's comments?
Well, the rumours are that they have. I think you can split that down the middle. I think there's players who deserve every bit of criticism that's coming their way, and there's players who don't. And I think, someone like Harry Kane, has he lost the respect and the kind of belief of someone like Harry Kane? But Harry Kane is, working his arse off, trying to drag this team single-handedly nearly to the top 4. There are players, unfortunately, that have spent a long period of their career at Tottenham and fallen short so many times. I don't think they have a right to say that Antonio Conte wasn't correct in what he said about them. Having said that, as a collective, if they weren't playing as a team before, I can't see how this unites them as a team either. So, we are in a better position, I think, points-wise than we were this time last year. And we're in a better position in the league than we were this time last year. And yet somehow, last year, I felt confident we would get 4th, and we did. This year, I don't feel confident at all. I think the fixtures that we have remaining, we'll blow hot and cold. If Conte remains, we'll blow hot and cold for those games. We'll pick up 15 points, maybe 17 points, and we'll fall 3-4 points short and maybe get 5th or end up in the Conference League. If Conte goes and Mason comes in, we may have the players who get the opportunity to express themselves a little bit more. But again, I think the quality of player there is lacking in some areas of the team, and therefore I still don't think we'll get much more than 15, 17 points. So I can't see with the fixtures that we've got, I can't see the pathway, except for, and this is why I'm so conflicted, except for Pochettino walks back in the door next week and we maybe get that bounce. I agree. I think that's probably the only chance we can fix this in the short term. But I think it's such a gamble because, how many times have we said they need to back the manager? They need to back the manager. So, and I think someone said it in the comments a little bit earlier that Pochettino needs to be the manager, not the coach. He needs to have that Harry Redknapp license to sign the players, to use his scouting network. And he didn't get that before. why not? So if the football club have learned from their mistakes, if they are willing to A, back him, B, let him pick the players, let him sign the players and turn him into that manager, then I do think that Pochettino's the man to bring us back. And that is just about the only way we can get top four. But am I confident that they'll do that? No, I'm not. And that's that head and heart argument that I've got on this.
Sadly, Carl, I don't think that role actually exists anymore as a manager. I think that's a modern day game thing now. And of course, sorry to bring it up, but when we won the Audi Cup, that's where it all went wrong for me after the Champions League, because in that press conference, I don't know whether you remember, Pochettino come out and said, "I'm not the manager, I'm the head coach." And I think that was the start of it all going wrong. Harry Kane's contract. This is the last thing that we'll talk about. Carl, let's start with you on Harry Kane. If you were Harry Kane, what would you do?
If I was Harry Kane, I've got the all-time Tottenham Hotspur goal-scoring record under my belt. I don't think anyone could say that I've not done everything I can. Okay, Kane has gone missing once or twice in those big games. So Kane has to take some responsibility for the fact we've not won this trophy in all this time. But I think he's more than made up for that in terms of the loyalty that he's shown. Harry Kane's 30 years old, or is he 30 years old this summer? He hasn't got long left. He's at his very peak of his game. We know he's not got much pace to begin with. So he has one last big contract in him, but I don't think he's motivated by that. I think Harry Kane's haunted by the thought of spending the rest of his career, those kind of jokes they make about Alan Shearer never winning the FA Cup on Match of the Day. Harry Kane's got that times 10. At least Alan Shearer can say, well, I won the league once. Harry Kane will be haunted for the rest of his life if he retires having never won a cup. And if he stays with our football club for all this turmoil, that could happen. So I don't think anyone wants us to win more than Harry Kane does. And the reality is that Harry Kane must now surely at the second or third time know that he cannot trust that it's going to happen at this football club. He cannot trust that we're going to follow through on the things that we say we're going to do, which is criminal when you think about it, because this is the greatest player that's ever pulled on our shirt. So unfortunately for me, I cannot see how Kane stays. I agree that if Pochettino comes in and maybe short term he stays for a little bit longer, and what a story that would be. What a fantastic tale that would be if they could win together. But I do think that Kane's time's coming to an end at Spurs. And why on earth would he sign another contract with what's going on at the minute? You know, you look at his eyes, you look at his reaction on Saturday, you know. So I would love to see Harry Kane retire at our football club. I would love to see him lift trophies with us and fulfill what he needs to do. But if I'm not confident in it, then I don't know how he can be.
I completely agree with everything you said there, Carl. Sadly, of course, we all want Harry Kane to stay, but he must be so frustrated, no trophies at Tottenham. And, you know, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him leave in the summer, sadly. Simone, what are your thoughts?
First of all, guys, for the last breaking news that we received right now, it seems that Ryan Mason will take charge of the team since the last game of the season, but we are checking it nowadays. Earlier this week, both Antonio Conte and Tottenham could part ways. Nothing official. It's all about Matt Lowe. It's all about the Guardian, but we are checking it, so nothing official. But to be honest, this is what currently is happening. For me, it would be a waste of time to be back to Ryan Mason as a caretaker manager. For me, it would be absolutely a no-go, because if you want to be aiming to build something new, I would appoint right now a new manager. If not, I will stick together with Antonio until the end of the season. But of course, first of all, guys, I need to say I want to thank Antonio publicly, because we shared great times, both in Milan before the game AC de Milan against Tottenham, and both after the second leg, Spurs AC de Milan. because I had the opportunity to ask him some questions in a press conference, and we shared some great times. Proper man, great man, to be honest. We shared also a picture. So thank you, Chris, to provide me the chance to say this, because every Spurs fan knows that I love Maurizio. I love to say Poch back at Spurs, but I need to be honest, I'm Italian. Even if I don't love Antonio, that was great to share sometimes with him, to be honest, at the end of the show.
You didn't tell Antonio how you want Pochettino back, did you?
No, to be honest, no, because I was scared by saying it the truth.
Simone, on a serious note, with Harry Kane, if you were Harry Kane, stay or leave?
If maybe I should have left 2 years ago. Now I'm almost 30. I'm the Tottenham Hotspur record breaker of all time. So maybe I will stay, because you know, Chris, you know me. I love this kind of romantic stuff, and maybe I'm an icon for Spurs, so maybe I will stay.
Craig, same question to you on Harry Kane.
It's a difficult one because, as you said, he's 30 in the summer. He's our all-time record goal scorer now. He's definitely after Shearer's record. And it's not just me saying it. Harry said he's got no interest really in going abroad. Young family, I just don't think he's one of those types of players that wants to go. He's certainly not going to go Bayern Munich just to win the trophy. Let's get this straight. If Real Madrid come call him, I could see that would be the only club outside the Premier League that might tempt him. Perhaps Barcelona, but probably Real Madrid. But from everything I've read, he wants to stay in the Premier League. So let's look at his options. City. He's not going to go to City because they've got Haaland. Liverpool. He's not going to go to Liverpool because they've got striking options unless they radically change their front line, which I don't think they're going to do. They've invested heavily there. He's not going to Arsenal. He's certainly not going to Chelsea. So that leaves, as we've said many times, it leaves Manchester United. Has he got, all right, this is a bad argument because Man U have just won a trophy, but would you say he's got more chance of winning the Premier League with Manchester United than Spurs? I would say it's generally around the...
They're in the FA Cup semi-final as well, Craig. So, you know, they could pick up 2 trophies in Eric Ten Hag's first season.
They could, yeah. I know perhaps I'm clutching at the straws, admittedly, but from last season, if you'd asked me the same question last season, I'd say we're on a par with Manchester United. I have to admit they have been better than us this season. Perhaps I've just totally ruined my own argument, but ultimately this is going to be down to Harry Kane, and if he does want to move, because for me the only place he's likely to go is going to be Manchester United. Would he want to do that? I don't know. I can't see it. I would put Newcastle on a par with us certainly at the moment. I don't see why he would. For me, if he's going to go somewhere, it would be Manchester United. But Daniel Levy apparently has come out and said he wouldn't be selling to Manchester United, so or anyone for that matter, not just Man U. So I don't know. What would I do if I was Harry Kane? This is head ruling hard. If it was with my boyhood club, I don't know. I'd like to think that I would want to stay. I'm 30 years old. Do I want to be moving my family up north? I don't know. Or do I want to be a club? He is a club legend. Let's get it right, and he always will be. And not one of us would begrudge him going. I think that's the thing. But to see him running out in a red shirt in Manchester against us, that would hurt more than any other player. You know, it's bad enough seeing Eriksen wear their shirt.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Harry Kane? Yeah. And people's memories would be very short, I'll tell you. So for me, I just hope he stays.
TalkSport have just stated that Tottenham are set to sack Antonio Conte later this week. Sources understand. Daniel Levy is understood to have decided Antonio Conte's fate following talks on Monday. Now, I've got 3 very, very quick fire questions for all of you to end the show. Cole, let's start with you. Who will be the Spurs manager for the Everton game on the 3rd of April. What position in the league do you think will finish at the end of the season? And who will be the manager at the start of next season?
Ryan Mason will be in charge against Everton. I think we'll finish 5th. And I think if I had to put my last tenner on it, I would say that I think Pochettino will be Tottenham manager first game of next season.
Carl, you stole all 3 of my answers. Craig, what about you?
What was the questions again? I think
Who
we'll
will be
finish
third
5th.
manager? Everton.
Yeah, right. Okay, Ryan Mason. I think we'll finish 5th, and who will be manager at the first game of next season was the last one.
Yeah.
Christ Almighty, I just don't get why they put Ryan Mason in charge if Poch is coming back. If Poch ain't in charge against Everton, I don't think he is coming back in the summer. I don't get why you would do that. Unless, I mean, Ryan Mason and Harry Kane are best mates, don't forget. So perhaps he's going to involve Kane a bit more. I don't know. Perhaps that could be a sweetener. That could be a thing, couldn't it? Who's going to be manager? I'm going to go with the heart, Chris, because all the other answers just don't make sense to me. So I'm going to say Pochettino for manager next season. But it's that Frankfurt manager. Is that going to keep Harry Kane? Can you imagine Daniel Levy saying that? Oh, Harry, we got this guy from Frankfurt. He's coming in.
The one thing you can say about the Frankfurt manager is he was linked with Chelsea a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we've tried putting Chelsea managers in after they've been sacked. What about just get them before they go? So you can't say they're not learning from their mistakes.
Well, I was also going to say, any chance of Thomas Tuchel, because his name keeps coming up. And for me personally, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Spurs appoint Thomas Tuchel.
He would be the 4th after Jose Mourinho under Villas-Boas.
Yeah.
And Antonio Conte as a former Chelsea manager to be the next Tottenham coach. Of course, I would love to see Thomas Tuchel than Glasnier, the manager of Eintracht Frankfurt, De Zerbi, Luis Enrique. There are better managers. I think that Thomas Tuchel or Mauricio Pochettino are far better than that, guys. To be honest, let's see what happens. I strongly hope that if Antonio needs to be sacked, it won't be Ryan Mason, because Ryan Mason is an own goal. It's just like being 2 years ago. So no sense, completely no sense. What a mess! What a mess.
Simone, what's your answers to those 3 questions?
Which are the 3 questions, please?
Who will be the manager against Everton on the 3rd of April? Where will we finish in the league? And who will be the manager at the start of next season?
Maybe Ryan Mason, I hope not. We finish 6th, and next season I strongly hope Mauricio, because I love him. So, of course, I'm gonna answer that way. So, Poch, 100% Poch.
Simone, just one last question for you.
Yeah.
If Pochettino comes back,
yeah,
and I know a lot of people
I will be back in London.
No, I know a lot of people are going to shout at me now. Those loan players, Harry Winks, Tonguion Ndombele, Giovanni Lo Celso, Joe Rodon, etc., those players, do you think that when they come back, if Mauricio Pochettino was the manager, does he give them another chance at Tottenham?
Only Gio. Ndombele maybe will be sold in a permanent way. Winks, he wanna play. Winks, he showed once again last week that he said that I loved Spurs, but I wanted a new challenge. So I think that even if Poch comes back, Harry Winks wouldn't be staying as a backup. So he wanna face in football. So maybe we'll play for Burnley or places like that. Gio Lo Celso is the only one that maybe can stay and try to find his way to be back on the first team.
Simone, thanks so much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure having you on, talking to you. Please tell everyone where they can find you on social media and what you're up to at the moment.
Yeah, as everybody knows, Simone Dell'Uomo Doc 21 on Instagram. I still don't have Twitter. Chris, has been absolutely a pleasure. Big up as well to your fantastic son, Ari, and your fantastic dad. So it's been absolutely a pleasure. Big up as well to Craig and Carl.
Simone, thank you. And Craig, thanks so much for coming back on as normal. Tell everyone where they can find you and what you're up to at the moment.
Not up to much, just trying to pick my way through this. If there isn't enough stress in life without supporting Tottenham, Jesus Christ. At Demon9 on Twitter if you want to follow me, that would be great. I just wonder if Conte knew he's being sacked, because you only get 20 kilograms of luggage allowance on Ryanair, so he'll have to sort that out, won't he? But yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think he was only due to be gone for a couple of days. He was obviously supposed to be back tomorrow, isn't it? I think he was supposed to be. So that's weird. Great. I'll tell you what, Chris. Go on.
I've got a feeling we'll be doing another show tomorrow evening.
Yeah. I'll clear the schedule. What is annoying for you? Like, you're gonna have to replace that banner behind you and redo your opening credits, aren't you? So put a picture of Ryan Mason up there. I'll knock one up for you or something. God.
Yeah.
Anyway, pleasure anyway.
Thank you, Craig. And Carl, thanks so much for coming back. Been a pleasure having you back. And tell everyone about your wonderful podcast and where people can find you on social media.
Well, I was just going to say your banner budget's bigger than the transfer budget, Chris, if we keep going through managers. And could there be a greater metaphor if he does go than a manager leaving Spurs on a Ryanair? It's just poetic. It's unbelievable, this football club. I've got a podcast called When Football Began Again. It's all about the Premier League era, but it's not just about the Premier League. Football didn't begin in 1992. So it's deep dives into teams' Premier League histories and interviews with ex-players and managers and so on. So you can find me When Football Began Again. I'm also a stand-up comedian. I've seen that one or two people have given me a few lookalikes. So I've had Simon Pegg in the comments. I've had Michael Sheen. I'll throw one more in for you, Marv off Home Alone. If you want to see me talk about these things in stand-up comedy terms, I'm Carl Jones on Twitter, or Carl Jones Comedy, or WFBA Pod for the podcast.
Thank you, Carl. Pleasure having you back. Carl, Simone, and Carl, thank you so much for your time this evening, and thank you to everybody who's watched this podcast and listen to it on an audio platform. If you are watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button, like, share, and comment below. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, come on, you Spurs.